This is Roger Hillman. I've been conducting interviews for some World War II veterans. This time I'd like to do my own, which was a part of the Korean War, which started in 1950 and went for 3 years. And I'd like to tell you my background and my part in it. October the 20th of 1950, I was sworn into the Air Force, the United States Air Force, in Des Moines, Iowa. And from there, I was sent by train to Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio, Texas. I spent 2 weeks at Lackland, and most of that time was spent just drilling and learning how to march and drill and that sort of thing. Then we were loaded up on buses, taken north, full day's journey to Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas. It was right on the close to the Oklahoma border. Shepherd had been a World War II base and had pretty much been closed down, but it was reopened during the Korean War as an influx of Air Force personnel was coming in to take their basic training. I continued and finished my basic training at Shepherd Air Force Base. Lackland and Shepherd together was about a 13-week course. At the end of my basic training, I was assigned to a air weather unit as a weather observer. And I was sent to Chinook Field at Rantoul, Illinois, where I was to take my schooling. And I took a rather extensive weather course at Rantoul, and upon finishing at Rantoul, I was assigned, my first orders came in that I was going to go to Saudi Arabia. I was given desert survival training and so forth. It was all set to go, but at the very last minute, they pulled my name, and instead of going to Saudi Arabia, I was sent and attached to the Army at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Fort Sill was an artillery base for the Army, and they had a little airfield there where they trained pilots and Piper Cubs and helicopters and so forth used as artillery spotters. But the Air Force was there to run the weather station at that field. It was a very small detachment, so I was assigned TDY, temporary duty, to the Army. And I spent my time there from late in March of 1951 and continued there until mid-November of 1951. I might say at this point that I was in the United States Air Force for 47 months, a little over 47 months. And of that time, I spent a majority of my time assigned as a temporary duty, much of it to the United States Army. I was to spend 12 months with the United States Army when I was in Alaska and on outpost duty. And then later I spent 20 months on temporary duty when I to the Air Force. My permanent station was Stewart Field, New York, and I never arrived at Stewart Field. My last 20 months in the Air Force, I was on a small detachment at O'Hare International Airport in Chicago. But to get back to the time that I was at Fort Sill, from Fort Sill, I received orders that I was going overseas and I would be located in Alaska. Alaska at that time was called the Territory of Alaska. It was not a state of the Union at that point. And so I simply took 2 or 3 days to get home and leave my car at home, and then I took a train to Camp Stoneman in California, and that was the Rebel Depot where the Army and the Air Force both used it to send troops anywhere in the Pacific area. I went by a Liberty ship, a 5-day journey, and arrived at Whittier, Alaska. And when I got there, I was assigned to the base weather station at Elmendorf Air Force Base. My commander at that point, the base commander, was a lieutenant colonel, and he'd been a World War II B-24 pilot. And he was also in charge not only of the base station at Elmendorf Air Force Base, but he was in charge of a lot of Arctic outposts where they had weather stations that took readings all over Alaska, since Alaska was important on what weather was going to be like when for the rest of the United States. These outposts were isolated places, and you could work up points faster and get back from Alaska quicker. And so in talking with him, he assigned me to bases at different times all over Alaska and the Arctic. And of those bases, I spent most of my time at one called Element. These were all code names, and I worked directly under him. Again, when I got to these bases, I was temporary duty to the Army, but I was just I sent weekly reports in to my commanding officer, which was the Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, and by working directly for a Lieutenant Colonel, nobody seemed to bother you very much, and so a lot of times I'd be the only airman with these Army units, but I was pretty much left alone. In December 1952, I returned from Alaska, and I was sent to O'Hare International Airport in Chicago. I was a weather person there, and spent 20 months there, finishing up my tour of duty with the United States Air Force. I think that pretty well covers my tour of duty. Of course, there were some odds and ends on stories that happened all along the line, but I wouldn't remember a lot of those. I remember my first duty in a weather station by myself. The very first evening I worked at Fort Sill by myself in a weather station, we had 4 tornadoes come down out of the Wichita Mountains, and the funnels were up and down, and one of those funnels went right down the flight line, tearing up planes right and left. And here I am up in one of those glass towers watching it happen. I think that's about really pretty much covers about everything I had. I got out of the military service, went on to college, and upon completion of college I came to Palmyra, and taught school here for 11 years, got married here, and have raised my family here. Thank you. I was on flying status at different times, and at the aircraft that I was on, I was a radio operator, and I was on a C-47, known as a Goonie Bird. I was on a C-46. I was on 2 different types of flying boxcars. One was a C-119 and the other one was a C-82. Those were the aircraft that I flew on while I was in the Air Force.